Moving on to the program, I'd now like to welcome Professor Mary Spongberg, who is the Senior Deputy Vice-Chancellor of our very generous sponsor, Southern Cross University. Southern Cross, as most of you know, has been unbelievable in its support of the community over the last 2 years. They are currently housing 3 schools on this campus, one of which, yeah, it's awesome. One of which, Trinity, we are kind of plonked right in the middle of. And so I want to thank Southern Cross University for opening their doors to us, but I also want to do a shout out to Trinity, who are also sharing their schoolyard, their school with us for these 2 days. So thank you, Mary. Please, can you all also please stay seated here? We're here for the whole until morning tea. There are 3 little sessions happening, and 2 sessions and a keynote. And so just settle in and get comfortable, and you don't have to go anywhere until morning tea. So please join me in welcoming Professor Mary Spongberg.
Thank you so much for inviting me, and happy International Women's Day. I was invited to several events today, but I wouldn't really be anywhere else. I'm so pleased to be able to talk to you today at this conference. At Southern Cross, we begin by acknowledging that we are meeting today on the lands of the Widjabul people of the Bundjalung Nation. I pay my respects to elders past and present, and to all First Nations people here today. I recognise the Widjabul people as the traditional knowledge holders for the land, the first scientists, the first historians, and the first custodians. I would also like to take this occasion to express my sincere thanks to the Bundjalung people for all the amazing work they undertook during the floods of 2022. If the university played a critical role in housing those dispossessed by the floods, the wonderful mob at the Curry Mail spent almost a year feeding Lismore and making sure, this always happens, and making sure that we were nourished as we got back on our feet. This was a critical service, as we know. Kitchens had been inundated and shops were closed. In spite of this, the building that housed the Curry Mail was inundated on February the 28th, 2022, with the waters rising to the 2nd floor. 30 years of the Curry Mail's history was washed away. Yet in spite of this great loss, staff at the Curry Mail pivoted to become a flood hub, responding to the community's need for sustenance, providing food and clothes, but also something much more important, genuine community spirit and true generosity. Our elders at Southern Cross University have also played an important role in discussing the history of flooding in this region, offering generous observations about how we might mitigate against the sort of disaster that enveloped the town in February 2022. I would particularly like to give a shout out to the Jagun Alliance. Jagun means country in Bundjalung, and Ollie Costello and other members of that alliance have worked tirelessly since the floods to increase our awareness and recognition of the importance of Aboriginal custodianship and management of land and sea country. And they've also shared their deep knowledge with us at the university and more generally to ensure that we make better decisions around the management of land and waterways. I'm here today, however, to represent the wonderful Ben Roach. What am I saying? Ben Roach, who's my PVC research and education impact. So I have pretty big shoes to fill, and I know Ben wouldn't have gotten my name mixed up. Ben was our first executive team member to make it to Lismore campus after the floods. And our response to the floods, basically a say yes response, was very much Ben's initiative. And we did say yes to more evacuees than we ever imagined possible, to a community banking hub, a business recovery hub, a health precinct, a local police command, to TAFE, to 700 ADF personnel and their helicopters, and most importantly, to 3 schools who are still here, housed here today. And I think this decision was the most important decision because we were very concerned that kids in Lismore didn't have their education even more impacted than they had over COVID. And we really hope that having them on campus will ensure that they still have the benefits of education that they mightn't have had we not done that. And if you know that kids don't want to go to university, let them know that we have amazing pathways here, and we would be really, I know the floods have really disrupted kids' education, but we really want to take them in with open arms. I think it's really important to remember that regional universities are truly embedded in community. Our staff and students, like many others here, were directly impacted, losing homes and experiencing serious trauma. But in spite of our own losses, our staff were also on the front line, using our research boats to rescue people trapped on roofs, without asking me, thankfully, but anyway, that was good, and analysing water quality post-flood, and cleaning up affected homes, businesses and schools. As academics, we are not separate from the community, but as a university, we are uniquely positioned to assist community by providing evidence-based research to support the region's recovery and flood mitigation efforts. I just want to note, in this year of our 30th anniversary, Southern Cross researchers are responsible for around 90% of the research on the Richmond catchment to date. And we are committed to continuing producing this research in partnership with local organisations such as Richmond Riverkeepers, the Jagon Alliance, Richmond Landcare and the Richmond Historical Society. It is our desire to connect our research and technical expertise with the community that underpins our work in the recently established Living Lab, which is housed in a building that was flooded in Woodlark Street in the Lismore CBD. The Living Lab is a partnership between Southern Cross University, the University of Technology and New South Wales Government. It was inspired by similar initiatives that emerged out of Louisiana after Hurricane Katrina. We have learned much from the experience of colleagues who worked in New Orleans after that disaster, in what to do and what not to do. In this, we have been guided by the amazing Dan Etheridge, who I think spoke to you yesterday. Dan is a Southern Cross alumni and homeowner in Lismore, who had spent 20 years working in New Orleans on post-Katrina recovery. And he'd originally gotten to New Orleans with a fellowship that we provided as a university in his last year of study. We've also been working with Professor Elizabeth Mossop, who was the Professor of Landscape Architecture and the Director of the Robert Reich School of Landscape Architecture at Louisiana State in 2005. She's now the Academic Director of the Living Lab, and we're very lucky to have her. The Living Lab is a first of its kind in Australia, and it represents an authentic partnership between the university sector, government and community. At its core is the commitment to modelling ways of bringing together local knowledge and technical experience, and to work effectively to provide genuine ways to assist recovery and to mitigate against the next flood event. Our core purpose is to support innovative community co-design programs of research and engagement dedicated to disaster readiness and mitigation. At the heart of what we do is allow the community agency in their future and provide them with the possibility of visualising hope for that future. Our current exhibition, Bring It Home, is an excellent example of how we do this, showcasing case studies and providing speculative designs for communities to see and ponder as possible solutions to the housing crisis in this region. Timed around the Resilient Lands first release, the exhibition is supported by workshops and community gatherings where architects, builders, engineers, housing and flood researchers work with community to imagine a better future. Running parallel to this exhibition, researchers at the lab are also assisting the government to work through questions of land use on the floodplain in areas heavily impacted by the buyback program. The Living Lab represents a new way of doing things, signalling the possibility of innovative and more agile forms of partnerships between universities, community and government. It is not only attracting interest from other universities, Australian universities, which we are very keen to partner with, but also from prestigious international organisations such as King's College London, Scripps Oceanographic Research Institute, and the University of Hull, where we have partnered with their Flood Innovation Centre to apply for funding for a resilient coastal community project. If you have not visited the Living Lab yet, it's open to the public Tuesday, Wednesday and Thursday afternoons and for special events. I thoroughly encourage you to go down and see what we're doing there. Not only will it help you visualise the future of the Northern Rivers, but also the future of research in Australia. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mary. And just echoing our appreciation for Southern Cross University. It was also the starting place for Resilient Lismore. We came up here and had a home in the bottom of E Block for a couple of weeks, and we're super grateful that we had all of that support to start doing the work that we do.